Hey everyone, Kellen Brauer from RacerX back again with the final race examination from the final round of SMX, and let's talk about, unfortunately, Justin Barcia going down. He was in second place off the start in this first of the two motos, but then has this massive crash just as he passes into the lead, and this one was a big one. He was down for a little bit. Eventually the red flag comes out, and essentially what this is coming out of this corner. It was kind of tough to see from the broadcast, maybe tough to even see it from this replay, but there's actually a little bit of a roller that they had right here, and all day Friday and most of Saturday guys were just kind of hitting the face of that and only doubling. Eventually guys started tripling out of this corner, but it made it so that the suspension would, you know, uncompress, like lift, and then you'd have to sit back into this face, and he spun going into this a little bit, so it just gets no traction up the face of this. Suddenly he's over the front of the bike, and I think in this situation he maybe waited a tad too long to decide to eject. Like, he lets go of the bars as he's coming into land, and this one probably pitches him a little bit harder forward into the ground. But a massive crash, and really just kind of a bummer deal because he looked so good and actually was passing into the lead in this situation. Terrible way for his season to end. And said, we don't know why, but it all happens for a reason. Definitely down, but not out. I'm beyond excited for 24. Currently, I have a few broken ribs and a bad broken collarbone, a beat up lung, and a bit of air in my chest. Once the air clears, it's way out so we can get surgery. We are on the recovery train. So, bit of a frustrating situation there for Barcia. Terrible end of the season, like I said, but at least he's on the recovery and going to be back in 2024. Now, Jett Lawrence busting out this quad to pass eventually Jason Anderson and then Ken Roczen to get into the lead. It was massive. He did it on, I think, the last 2 laps of qualifying, and then is going to pass Roczen here for the lead in the first moto. Then the guys basically right behind him all started figuring out and doing it, but everyone was saying it was really just that you had to commit to it. It wasn't so much that it was a difficult thing, but you had to commit to actually sending the quad all the way, because if you short it or even go a little bit long, it could be bad. And in this situation for Jett, it's not that he even went long right here, but his weight gets shifted forward in this pass. Look at how close this was to being really bad. The front tire is going to dab right there off of that single jump. If that single jump's a little bit taller, that in and of itself could have been a big one, but look at how good Jett immediately just recovers, goes for the scrub in the triple, and defends the inside line right here on this pass on Roczen. Pretty incredible that he figured this out in the first place and was able to make it happen. Now on to the second moto. Chase Sexton is going to have a huge one in the sand right here, going out of the lead. He wasn't in a position to win the overall at this point, but if things changed with Roczen and Jett behind him, he could have. So he was trying to get away and maybe win this $1 million, but then ends his tenure on Honda with this big crash right here. And really what this is as he shifts his weight back to the inside of this rut, as he's going to scrub off this single, he's going to drag his foot and the peg slightly in this little sand right here on the right side of the rut. And it's just that tiny little drag. You can see all the sand that gets kicked up from the drag on the right side of it. It's just that tiny little drag that pitches all his momentum and weight forward. And that's, I mean, a matter of inches, maybe even centimeters with that boot catching in the sand, because, you know, if his weight's shifted a little bit further back and it doesn't actually catch the sand on the right side right there, he's not going to go over the bars right there. His body positioning was good. The weight on the back of the bike was pretty solid as well. And it really is just that minute little catch of the sand. They're launching so far into the sand that even something like that could catch them out, and it did catch Sexton out in a big way right there. But Jett Lawrence did complete the 1-1 sweep on the night. He held off Ken Roczen. Roczen gave him a good run for his money, but Lawrence does win the $1 million and the championship. And what a season he has had on a 450. Incredible stuff. And now we get to see if he carries it into Motocross of Nations this coming week, and then into Supercross in 2024 for his rookie season.
I want to remind everybody that this video is presented by OnX Off-Road. Nowhere to go with the #1 off-road GPS app. Access 500,000 plus miles of trails and roads, open dates, and public lands. Download the OnX Off-Road app today.
Let's talk some stuff from the 250 class, and we'll start with Hunter Lawrence's crash that really ultimately ended his bid at winning the 250 SMX title. This was on Friday in free practice, and this one, I just wanted to highlight it again because it looked kind of insignificant when it happened. I mean, it was a big crash, no question about it, but it was kind of off a small jump. He just hits the ground and kind of slides away. But a few things happen here. First of all, look at this. The Dig Dug right here is what we call these guys. He reacts so fast to this crash. He's already turning around before Hunter Lawrence even hits the ground. But if we watch Lawrence, he's going to hit the ground, and as his head hits, the front tire also hits right between his like kind of neck and shoulder blade, and that's what causes the pinched nerve right there. And actually, if you go back just slightly right here, his boot like kicks his head. Like, that's how hard he hit the ground right there. It just doesn't show it with how small of a jump this is, but even going off the front of the bike right there, that's a big crash. He bounces the whole 9 yards. So really tough way for his season to end right there in SMX, and obviously cost him a shot at 500 grand. But fortunately, he's not more seriously injured and will be racing at the Motocross of Nations, we believe. Now, Haiden Deegan was in a kind of heated battle in this first moto. RJ Hampshire was able to sneak by him in this situation with Tom Vial, and the reason I'm leading in with this is because later on, as he's battling Vial, he swings wide again, and I think maybe he's trying to square off Vial, but Shimoda's already coming up the inside, and bam, just goes up the inside and runs Deegan off the track. And I saw a lot of people complaining that this is really dirty or aggressive for Shimoda. I mean, it's $500,000 on the line, but also Shimoda is just going to where the exit of the corner is here, and he actually kind of squares up with Deegan pretty good here. It's not like he's teeing him up or anything like that. Leaves him a little bit of room at the top of the track, and they just hit. Deegan doesn't go down. He actually pretty well soaks up the attempt at the pass as well. Like he recognizes it coming probably about, let's say, like there. And you're going to see him kind of lean into it. You see his body position go forward. He's leaning into the contact. He lifts his leg up so he doesn't get it caught between the contact as well. Really good kind of reaction to that, to not end up having it go worse, because he could, have his leg caught. Maybe it breaks a leg or something like that. But then leans into it so that when he does get hit, he doesn't get sent over the berm, and he just got kind of shuffled off the track a little bit right there. I think he would have tried to get back up the inside of Shimoda under the tunnel, but was already too close to the top blocks right there. So I think all around, hard pass, but good racing. Now, another attempted pass here late in the first moto was Hampshire on Jordan Smith. This was to win the moto, and I was actually really surprised that this pass didn't end up completing for Hampshire, because as I saw it live, I thought right about here, I'm like, yeah, he's got it. Anyone that's about this close, he stayed a little bit lower on the triple. Usually these guys, especially on the last lap, will just kind of dart down the inside. And Hampshire does land, does get his nose in there, but Smith does a really good job of kind of staying as close to that inside tough block as he can, and then going to a spot where he can still efficiently bank off of the berm and kind of leans into it as well. You can even see he does like a bit of a similar move here as he comes into the corner. He's going to like push his momentum a little bit forward and kind of leans towards the potential of the contact. So he's doing everything he can so that if he does get hit by Hampshire, he doesn't get pushed off the track. And Hampshire doesn't actually give him too much of the business right there, just kind of lets him have the position, and Smith goes on to win. But I think that's good, clean racing right there as well. A bit cleaner, obviously, than the Shimoda-Deegan situation. These guys are former teammates, so maybe there's a bit more of a friendliness there as well. But nice to see that they were able to get that done. Now, I wanted to focus on this second moto start. You got Hunter Yoder way outside right here, came through the last chance qualifier, and he is just going to hold it on. He always gets really, really good starts, but I thought this was kind of funny and not really talked about. He gets to the corner like, what, third, fourth? He's right in there with all the fast guys, basically, and doesn't quite make the corner. Just goes off the track to the outside right here. He was going for it, though, and you got to respect it, but just takes a little bit of evasive maneuver out there on the outside. Now, into the second corner, we got Jordan Smith. He is right in the front group right here. This is Kitchen, Deegan, Justin Cooper, Hawkins, Joe Shimoda. This is all the guys that are up front. And then Smith, who's trying to win this, he, after winning the first moto, was in a position where he could maybe win this title, gets hit by Dylan Schwartz. And Schwartz kind of just gets off balance, pushes him out, and then Smith runs out of room. Just not enough room in there to get it done. And I know a lot of people called Schwartz a bit of a wrecking ball in this situation, but this is, I think, more first lap incidental stuff. This one was more like just going in hard on Tom Vial in the third corner of this race and then pushes Vial over the berm. I mean, I'm not sure if he had any sort of prior situation with Vial that he wasn't happy with, but definitely took two of the guys that were right up at the front in the first one out of this one in the second race and made it a little bit kind of status quo. But Haiden Deegan just hung out between his teammates for the entirety of the race. Levi Kitchen gets the win. Justin Cooper finishes in third. Deegan finishes in second, wins the title, doesn't immediately know it, but right about there's the panic rev. He knows it. He's got it done. And then pretty much from there, the bike never stopped revving, just kept it wide open. Duff, his mechanic, celebrating with him. And awesome to see Haiden Deegan win it. Really cool story to come from 5th in Supercross Futures to start the year to winning the SMX Championship. And that's going to do it for us this season in the Super Motocross World Championship. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you guys next year.